All right. I think we're live. Push one in the chat if anyone can hear me. All right, got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 854, Black Politics. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. There's a link in the chat if you want to join the panel. It's a Zoom link. Make sure you update to the latest version of Zoom. I'm also on the panel with my co-host, Jay Shine. What's going on, Jay Shine? Can you hear me, Jay Shine? All right, while Jay Shine gets his mic together, let me start off. We had a conversation with Sandog a few weeks ago about the state of Black. While Jay Shine gets his mic together. Yeah, I'm not sure if that was me or if that was Jay Shine. Yeah, we had a conversation with panel member or panelists, Sandog, about the past, present, and future of Black male politics. And so it started off well. I think Sandog laid out his grounding of where he stands on the state of Black men today from a conservative perspective. And then we had some other additional people actually engage and add their perspective as well. And now today, what we're trying to do is follow up on that same conversation with some solutions to what we consider to be the problem.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Jay Sean. What's going on, bro?
Good. Good to hear your voice, brother. I'm good.
Good, good. And so let me share my screen on what we were supposed to cover last time. All right, push one in the chat if you can see my screen. All right, cool. This is from the Brookings Institute. The challenges facing Black men and the case for action. Okay, this is from 2020. Let me zoom in on this really quickly. Quote, to be male, poor, and either African-American or Native American is to confront on a daily basis a deeply held racism that exists in every social institution. Writes our Brookings colleague, Camille Bussett. No other demographic group has fared as badly, so persistently, and for so long. To meet this appalling crisis, Camille calls for nothing less than a new deal for Black men. Creating this new deal is one of the core priorities of the Race, Prosperity, and Inclusion Initiative directed by Camille, but also of the New Boys and Men Project, launched today out of the Center on Children and Families. The elements of this new deal will likely consist of intentional policymaking in the fields of education and training, the labor market, family policy, especially for fathers, criminal justice reform, and tackling concentrated poverty. This is one area where it is reasonable to hope for some bipartisan action. Witness the creation in 2019 of a new commission on the social status of Black men and boys, charged with recommending policies to improve upon or augment current government programs. This bipartisan commission, consisting of 19 members, will investigate potential civil rights violations affecting Black males and study the disparities they experience in education, criminal justice, health, employment, fatherhood, mentorship, and violence. The commission is required by law to report annually and make recommendations to improve the social conditions and provide vital guidance for Congress on effective strategies to reduce the racial disparities in education, criminal justice, health, and employment. The legislation to create the commission was introduced in the House by Representative Frederica Wilson and sponsored in the Senate by Marco Rubio, Kamala Harris, and Cory Booker. This is a welcome and positive development. It will be important for the commission to fully understand the challenges facing Black men, specifically in order to target policy appropriately. Black boys and men, in particular, run the gauntlet of a specific brand of racism at the sharpest intersection, at the sharp intersection of race and gender. Here we provide some key facts on Black men's outcomes in 8 important domains compared to Black women, white men, and white women and white men. Education. In 2019, 28% of Black men ages 25 to 29 had a bachelor's degree or higher, compared to 30% of Black women, over 40% of white men, and nearly half of white women. According to the National Center of Education Statistics in 2019, the gap is greater still at higher education levels. Only half as many Black men have a master's degree, 4%, as Black women at 9%. White men, 8%, and white women at 13%. Now, here's the deal. I don't necessarily think that there's anything wrong with the data, but I think that what happens in some of these cases is that we misappropriate what we think is wrong here by trying to close a gap that doesn't necessarily need to be closed, right? There's no, Black men work in fields that don't necessarily require a master's degree. And so why is there such an urgency to try to push for closing a gap that doesn't necessarily need to be closed? Like, for example, a Black man who's an electrical engineer, for the IB, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, well, he doesn't necessarily need a master's degree to be within the Brotherhood and for his job, unless he wants to be in a managerial role. I don't think that that's the right approach to try to prescribe, a solution to something that isn't necessarily a problem. What's your thoughts on this, Jason?
Not many right now. Right now, I'm just listening and taking in the data. But there's a lot of context that got to be added to this data. Like, for instance, we got the little gender war amongst Black men and Black women, this unnecessary competition. And you can see, if you scroll up again, even white women outpacing their men with degrees. The question is, what kind of degrees? When you talk about right there, start right there. So when you look at master degrees, Black men at 4%, Black women at 9%, white men at 8%, and white women at 13%. So, so it seems like the system is geared to women getting master degrees. I guess I don't know if they have the more time on their hands to do so. But what are those degrees in? That's the context that's missing from this this finding. I think it's just raw data. But if we go into the numbers and we actually look at the type of degrees that are being gained, we'll see more, or at least understand more.
2, upward mobility. Black women and white women raised by low-income parents, those in the bottom 20% of the income distribution, have similar rates of upward intergenerational mobility, measured in terms of their individual income as adults. Black men, by contrast, are much less likely than white men to rise up the income ladder, according to Raj Shetty and his team at Opportunity Insights, who have crunched the numbers on 20 million Americans in the 1978 and 1983 birth cohorts. A third of white men raised by low-income parents end up in the top 40% of the income distribution as adults, compared to only 19% of Black boys. The figure below shows the probability of moving up the income ladder for children raised by low-income parents by race. The data shows that Black men raised by low-income parents face twice the risk of remaining stuck in intergenerational poverty as Black women, 38% as Black women by 20% in terms of their individual income. Note, however, that Black women fare worse in terms of household income than in individual income, especially compared to whites, itself a reflection and part of the worst outcomes for Black men. So this is the raw data right here. Adult income quintiles of low income. This doesn't really surprise me. Black men have less social capital than, let's say, Black women. Black women can kind of straddle or move in and out of different demographic groups, whether they're talking about LGBTQ or they're talking about just women at the raw level, and then you talk about healthcare and some of these soft science fields, soft skills fields. I think that a lot more opportunities are available for Black women than there are for Black men when you start looking at the social structure as a whole. If you're a Black male who does not have a lot of those skill sets, and you're gonna, like emotional intelligence that we talked about in the past, you're not gonna be able to move around all that much, and so blue collar labor becomes a necessity for day-to-day living, right? So you're not going to be able to attain a lot of these opportunities that Black women get because they're in a different
Yeah.
demographic.
Right. And if you look at that can you go back up real quick? If you
Mm-hmm.
look at that second and middle quintile,
Mm-hmm.
that right there is policy.
Mm-hmm.
That's your government jobs, your state jobs, some of your corporate set asides for women and or
Mm-hmm.
Black women. You know what I mean? So you see that jump. But if you look at the top quintile,
Mm-hmm.
the top two, the fourth and the top,
Mm-hmm.
Black men are doing well as far as compared to Black women. So even better than Black women. So this right here is policy. And you see the bottom quintile where Black men are. That's policy.
Yep.
So, when you look at um, if you look at the Democratic Party right now, every time we turn around, it's going to be 9 times out of 10, a Black female mayor, a Black female, congresswoman, a Black female. You know what I mean? You can see that in politics alone, but it's even worse when you come into the public sector.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, number 3, earnings. Black workers, regardless of gender, earn less than white workers, and white men have substantially out-earned white women and Black workers since 1980, according to current population survey data. For both Black and white workers, men earn more, but the gender gap is much smaller for Black workers. The figure below shows the weekly earnings of full-time workers, hourly and non-hourly, for Black and white workers by gender since 1980. The results are striking. Black men earn $378 less per week than white men and $125 less than white women. Overall, white women have seen the biggest increase in earnings, overtaking Black men in the 1990s. Number 4, labor force participation. We talked about this the last live stream we did. The labor force participation rate for Black men aged 20 and over is 5.6 percentage points lower than for white men. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates, note that this excludes its incarcerated population. Many men and women face different considerations when deciding to participate in the labor force. So here, for simplicity, we compare Black and white men in terms of labor force participation. Black men are less likely to participate in labor force. We just talked about that, Jay Sean. There's different opportunities based on the demographics. And so hospitals are going to be a lot more hospitable, or the healthcare sector would be a lot more hospitable to Black women than they may be to Black men.
Right.
And so you see a lot more Black women in the healthcare sector than Black men because there's just a lot more opportunities there. You start going into the more rigorous, more upskilled blue collar work.
Mm.
For example, I know a couple of guys that work at Raytheon on radar detection systems.
Right.
These are areas that black men are probably more adept at when it comes to computer electronics,
Hmm.
soldering and using oscilloscopes and things of that nature. There's just a lot more um, involved hands-on work that black men could be a lot more adept at, whereas black women may not be interested in these fields.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's interesting, for complete full disclosure, I'm currently in Uganda right now. And yesterday I was in Nairobi. And 2 nights ago I was actually with O'Shea, and then we had a phone call with George Macon.
Okay.
And I talked to George Macon about this. And so in November, when I come back, I'm going to go talk to his children about the military option, the full gamut of it, not just getting away from home and getting away from the hood, which is a good idea. But it's also about the job training opportunities, the abilities to get certifications. You don't have to do a 20-year career. You just do one enlistment, right? And then you can go into these fields in STEM, in cybersecurity, and engineering, right? And that's how a lot of white men end up in companies like Raytheon. When I went to Richardson, Texas, to get trained on DLPs by Raytheon, um, I was there for 2 weeks learning how to build DLPs that were built on that were based on their map table technology. So back in Virginia, we had 18 of them, 12 live and 18 in rotation for refurbishment. So I had to go down there and train on that stuff. And every guy that I talked to down there in Raytheon, half of them had military backgrounds.
Hmm.
All right, they had military backgrounds. These are white boys that went into the military, got some skills, picked up a certification, and then rolled out and got a job in the contract as a contract in the national defense sector. The same thing I did. That's why I was down there. I was down there as a defense contractor. It's no different. So
Hmm.
these are the pathways that brothers don't understand. You can end up in the private sector going through the military, right? And using it as a jump off point, using it as a place where you can get free certifications, free training, free OJT, right? And then you end up in over here in the private sector with a high skill that could take you anywhere in the country and quite frankly anywhere in the world. So whether that's in IT, whether it's in general engineering, whether it's in project management, whether it's in cybersecurity, what I mean? All these different fields and different areas you can go into just by enlisting and taking advantage of that option.
Yeah, and I would also say, in addition to that, that you still have DHS, you still have
Mm,
Coast Guard, you still have a variety of Customs Border Protection. There's a lot of areas
mm,
that you
good
can
point.
tap into without actually going into the military as well, but you still
That's
have
right.
some of the similar benefits. When I was going through the airport, when I was coming from Ghana, um,
Mm,
I saw a lot of brothers who were walking around the airport, working for DHS.
mm,
Not TSA, but DHS, folks who got pistols, TSA doesn't
right.
always have pistols. So you're seeing that level of law enforcement, that transition, they can just get in and get out to different, uh, kind of make lateral moves or upward moves, into different areas.
Right.
So
And these are high paying jobs too, by the way.
yeah.
These are high paying jobs. So when we go back to the policy point that I was trying to make, see, black women are going to take those office jobs where they sit down all day.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And in the public sector, they're going to take those jobs real quick if they get an opportunity to take them. We have to impress upon black men the opportunities that we have out here,
Hmm.
that do exist currently. And then once we start pursuing those opportunities, then doing politics, that's when you ask for more, right? That's policy. And you can see the outcome from the policy. The problem is that you have one group that's participating. I'm not gonna say one group because it's not just black women. I could sit here and give you stories all day about how white men and white women are doing this.
Yep.
All right, they'd be the first ones to go out here and give you that conservative spill about pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, but nobody has got more public jobs than white people.
Yep. But the
So,
government is the biggest employer of black people,
that is true.
compared to the
That is
private
true.
sector.
They're the biggest employer of all people. Period. They're the biggest employer. Period. So when you look at the demographics of the government, I know we talk about black people, Mike. I get it,
Mhm.
but
Yep. Mhm.
we also got to keep in the background how other groups are taking advantage of this. And the reason why this is important is because not only have white people taken advantage of it, always since the beginning of time and still are. Now
Mhm.
we have immigrant groups that are coming behind us, and they're going to take the people of color advantage. You see, that's why words matter. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And they're going to start feeling it. So those demographics are going to even shift even more. And if black men are not participating, and you know what I mean, we just putting a nail in our own coffin.
All right, number five, unemployment during the COVID-19 pandemic. Black men have the highest unemployment rate of civilian, non-institutionalized Black and white men and women over age 20, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. There was a large race gap in unemployment, independent of gender, even before COVID-19 swept the US. Prior to March 2020, Black men consistently had among the highest unemployment rates of Black and white workers. Unemployment shot up for everyone in April, and Black women face higher unemployment than Black men for 2 months. As unemployment began to fall most in June, Black men's unemployment rose and remained high through September. The last month's data is available. In September, 12.6% of Black men were unemployed compared to 6.5% of white men. Now, this is interesting, right? And they're talking about this during the Trump administration. And a lot of Black men in this space will say, well, I came up under Trump. I did well under Trump. Black men did well under Trump. And the data doesn't reflect that at all. I always find this interesting that people bring this up because for all the stimulus checks and whatnot that Black men allegedly got, I don't, the data doesn't reflect that Black men were doing well at all.
Right.
And so I think that I think the expunging of records is going to be critical. DBI's drug and background investigations, need to be nullified after a certain amount of time. I think that those who are returning home citizens from incarceration, I think that after 12 months, after 366 days, I think that the record should seal itself.
Mhm.
And make it just that much easier to apply for work because your background could also impact your ability to get housing too. You could be discriminated for housing,
Right.
and these are for non-violent offenses. I was watching a video this morning. This brother had got pulled over for going to McDonald's with no license plate. Now
Mhm.
the license plate wasn't attached to the rear; it was put in the window. But because the officers didn't see it, they locked this dude up. These are sort of things that are
Yeah.
non-violent that end up on your record that hurts people. I've seen white men, drive, from Arkansas, state troopers, um, and they don't get killed at all. It's,
Yeah.
it, they get
Yeah.
these high-speed
And
checks
they
and get
and
away with
and
it.
they use crap like resisting arrest.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Which is after contact. It's not even the initial quote unquote crime because there wasn't one initial crime. There
yeah,
was no real initial infraction. They had a probable cause to stop you, and then now they got resisting arrest. And then even if you in places like New York, they got things like menacing. If you look at a cop the wrong way and you stand over, you know what I mean? You lurch towards a car, that's menacing. That's a charge. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So these are things that are going on that that again is policy.
yeah.
This is policy. This is exactly what some people in power want to happen. So if we're not participating in this game, you're just going to be prey of it.
Now there was a case in Virginia a couple years ago. Karan Nazario, that brother who was pulled over in Virginia
Mm,
by those two officers. They're gone off the force now, but look at the way how he was treated. If it wasn't for body cam footage and his own cell phone cam, that could have ended differently. And somebody who he's in uniform,
yeah,
imagine what that would do to his background. Nobody would ever be able to speak to it. So these
yeah.
are sort of things that hurt Black men from getting finding employment. And so there needs to be a way to mitigate
And you know
against
what?
this on this.
Let
Yeah,
me let me expand on that real quick. Now you saw the cop got dealt with correctly, and there was actually some justice in that situation. Why? Because it was Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia is where you have what? a lot of black veterans, a lot of black people in participating in government currently, and a lot of black
Mm-hmm.
military are right there. So because of that demographic, right, and that the actual economic and power base, something was done about it.
Mm-hmm. A
You see
good
what I'm
point.
saying? And a lot of people don't understand that the outcome. We get emotional about what we're seeing, and we should, because it is traumatic for black men to keep seeing this happen to us over and over again. But we got to step back and look at the business of it. You know what I mean? And what I look at now is what happened after the fact. All right, that cop got dealt with. I think that cop now is no longer even able. He didn't even kill the black man, and we got cops out here who've actually shot black people, and they still have the ability to work as police officers. You know what I mean? This cop
Mm-hmm.
he can't even work as a police officer no more. So, there was an actual response, and something was done about it because there's actually an economic and political base in that region that they had to adhere to.
Yeah, what I'm showing on the screen right now is the Army Lieutenant Karan Nazario. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Hmm. Yeah, you talking about a place where you have over 1,000 black colonels and military officers and retired military officers. You know what I mean? Something's gonna be done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trust me. I know the makeup of the area. That's the area I live in. I know the makeup
Mm-hmm.
of that area. Yes, yes, it's still white and it's still, but we don't have those kind of problems as you see across the country in Northern Virginia for that reason. Now, if you
Mm-hmm.
go down to Richmond, right, where black people have no power, no economic base, you know what I'm saying, it's different. But this is something I want to throw out there.
Yeah, definitely. I think that this is a testament to what happens to a lot of black
Mm.
men who are just minding their own black business.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Even in uniform, it's going to happen every now and then. And
Mm-hmm.
sadly, when you're out of uniform, you don't have a chance, and then there's no justice. That's the coup d'etat. It's not just the infraction; it's the fact that there's no accountability for it. And that's the real pain. That's the real pain is because you can't look, police for the most part, they can't stop a murder, right? Let's take race out of it. They can't stop a murder,
Mm-hmm.
Mike.
Mm-hmm.
They're responding to a situation. What is the deterrent? The deterrent is that you're going to get caught and do time. The deterrent is there's going to be an accountability for the things you do. That's why you don't have as much murder. You don't have as much stealing, right? Because there's going to be consequences. The reason why you have a lot of shit happening in certain areas of the country to black people because there's no consequences.
Yep. Very good point. All right, six, life expectancy. Women live longer than men on average, but there are big race gaps too. Life expectancy is lowest for Black men among Black and white people, according to the CDC, National Center for Health Statistics, both at birth and at age 65. For white men, life expectancy at birth is about 6 years lower than at age 65. But for Black men, that gap is over 9 years, showing that Black men are more likely to die prematurely. Black men die 4 years earlier than white men. Maybe that's why they moved up the the retirement age for Social Security. Um, so you can't have access to it. But we see that in the manosphere, right? David
Mhm,
Carroll, out of here. Kevin Samuels, out of here.
mhm.
What's the other cat that passed away not too long ago? Out of here. All these black men were below
You talking
60
about
years old.
ARC? Yeah, ARC.
Yeah, ARC.
Yeah, yeah. It's stressful being a black man. It's stressful being a man, period, in the Western culture. But being a black man is 4 times as stressful, and that takes a toll on your body and your psyche and your health over time.
Hmm.
You have bad eating habits. You have undiagnosed stress, and even worse, untreated stress. And it does a lot of things to your organs, your blood pressure, all that stuff is a part of this. So
Hmm.
when you talk about progressive politics and and progressive outcomes for black men, what we're talking about is having a better life at the
Yeah.
end of the day. You know what I'm saying? It's a better life when you have agency and you have, enough money where you're not stressed out about paying rent. You know what I mean? You're making money at the same level as other groups of men. You see what I'm saying? It affects your life differently overall. I don't want to change the subject. I know
No.
Shonda H, she's in the health field. She could probably talk more about this because she actually sees it on a day in day out basis in her
Mhm.
field of work. But yeah, stress and the diseases and the health issues that come from it all
Mhm.
stem from opposition in society, and all of it's due to policy. And we have to get active in politics. We have to get active in the economy. We have to be active. This is not something you can do as an individual. I don't want to hear that pull your bootstrap nonsense up right now. It's not time for that. That's you can't individually your way through this issue. You can't close these gaps as an individual. This has to be done on a larger level.
Yeah, I think that the Affordable Care Act is one of those policies that allow Black men to have access to quality care or some form of care to address some of their issues before it gets too late, right? And so
Mhm.
I know a lot of people like, well, I don't want government in my business. What are you talking about, man? You got Social Security, you got all types of other areas where government is in your business, but you don't seem to be complaining about that. You only want to complain about,
Yeah,
Obamacare or something like that, right? And
right.
so public policy, Affordable Care Act allows Black men to have access to quality Medicare coverage. So, um, how do you close the gap in these areas? I think that when it comes to um, when it comes to respiratory environmental issues, these are areas that could be easily addressed with better clean air. That's just one of the areas that Black men die from is respiratory illnesses. High blood pressure and things like that. I mean, we've covered this in the past about where Black men are failing at. We saw that during COVID. A lot of Black men got torn out the frame
Yeah,
because they just did not have access to quality care. They were turned
right.
away, and told to go home. So,
And
um,
ultimately, what is that? An economic issue, right?
mhm.
So it always comes back to to policy. So basically, if policy is not supporting you or policy is not um, favoring you, it's helping to kill you
and
in
and
more
getting the yeah.
in so many unseen ways. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and getting a passport and becoming a passport bro, it doesn't necessarily that's not the strategy to
No,
premature
no.
death. It's not going to help you.
Passport bro, and it's not really passport bro, because I just met
Yeah,
with expats. I know
yeah.
expats.
Hmm.
The expat situation is not a passport bro situation. To be an expat, that means you have a fixed income and you move
Hmm.
to a location where your dollar goes longer, right? So you're talking about people in retirement. Remember that guy, one master teacher? He changed his name to DeRozan or something like that.
Oh
This
yeah.
guy was sitting over in Europe the whole
Hmm.
time he was doing this channel, and then all of a sudden he's retired from the Air Force, and then put a post talking about fighting for VA benefits so he can get more money. But this is US dollars coming to him, right?
Hmm.
So now he's retired in Brazil. So now he can live in Brazil full time. Why couldn't he live in Brazil full time before? Because he had to work.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So how are you going to make your money? How are you going to continue to make top US dollars if you're not part of the US economy? So yeah, so a handful of people could do it through social media, but what? Everybody's gonna be a content creator now? That's really the strategy? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. That's not a solution for black men. Passport
No.
Bro is not a solution for black men. All it is actually is more of a debt. These brothers are saving money, Mike, spending big dollars, taking off crazy leave and saved up vacation time just to go smash ran throughs halfway around the world. That makes no sense. You know what I mean? That makes no sense to me. And I'm in the world right now. I'm in Africa right now. All right, I'm on a 3 week I'm on a trip right now.
Hmm.
I was in Dubai, I was in Kigali, I was in Nairobi. Now I'm in Kampala. I'm going back to Dubai and Friday. You know what I mean? For
Hmm.
4 days. Then I'm going back to Germany. So this is coming from somebody who travels all the time. And I just came back from America. I was in America for 2 weeks back in November. All I do is travel.
Hmm.
I put my passport against any dude in this space.
Hmm.
Anybody. I got two of them. I got a brown one and a blue one. So you can't tell me about the passport bro thing. You know what I mean? I travel for different reasons though. I don't travel to smash women because I know out of the 8 billion people on the planet, 4 point something billion of them are women. So it's gonna be women everywhere you go. You know what I mean? You gotta have more higher, you gotta have a higher purpose in life than that. But to get off the passport bro thing, it's just not a
Hmm.
solution for black men. It's not a business solution. It's not a political solution because if you're focused on being outside the country, then I know you're not focused on politics. So that means policy won't change. So what you're really doing is abandoning other black men and black boys. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Real
Selfishness.
talk. Yeah, it is. You're being a rugged individual, just like Keisha.
Now, be careful because they might call you a colorist for having a brown passport and a blue one too.
Hey man, come on, come
I
on.
call it.
Hi-yo.
I call it American privilege. What's up, Cat
Hey,
Complex? What's going on?
Hey, what's going
what
on, bro?
up?
Let me get to this next item on the docket. This is number 7, COVID-19. How black men have been the most likely among black and white Americans to die of COVID-19 at a rate of 2.4 times that of white men, according to CDC data through July 2020. The figure below showed that 80 out of 100,000 black men in the U.S. had died of COVID-19 by July 4th. That's a lot, man. Yeah, even more so than black women, right? I think because we goes back to not having access to quality care, not being able to be seen by a physician, or not even, a lot of black men use the emergency room as their care provider, and I think that actually hurts them, even further because you have to wait. It's not like as soon as you come to the emergency room,
Actually,
they see you.
I got to push back on that, Mike. I think it's worse than that. I think a lot of brothers are not even going to the emergency room.
Where are they going? CVS?
They're just not going.
Yeah.
I think it's that serious. You know what I mean? I think when you go to the emergency room and you look at poor people, most of it is either immigrants or women. I don't see a lot of brothers in the emergency room when I go there. I don't see a lot of brothers going to the emergency room when they get sick. Some do, but it's not something we primarily do. It's worse than that. Not only we don't have the coverage, Mike, to go to a regular doctor, to have our regular checkups, to do preventive care. We got brothers who need to go to the emergency room who don't go. You know what I mean? And that's why those numbers are probably so crazy. Look at that graph.
Yeah. Yeah, getting torn out the frame. Homelessness, unhoused, being
Right.
unhoused also plays a significant role in that. You're going to see a lot more of these cases prop up, not just for COVID, but for other things such as type 2 diabetes and all these other top 10 ailments that hurt people. Black men tend to be at the forefront of it, especially prostate cancer.
Heart disease, and high blood pressure.
Yeah, but they try to self-medicate is what I can gather from this, is that they go to Walgreens or CVS and try to get some peroxide or something like that and hope that
And,
helps.
Nah, the
fuck,
reality is,
Bro, you wrong for that, dog.
nah, the reality is, guys are not going to the doctor. Like I said, I just had my year-end checkup. My cholesterol was a little bit high, so I made sure that I went to my doctor. I've been taking statins. Yeah, I take a statin, Orvastatin. I do take it. So my cholesterol levels, which were close to 200 before, are now down to like 108, 109, very low. Plus, I changed up my diet. So one of the things that I look to do is to make sure I constantly regulate, check what my levels are. Heart. You have to check. Your blood pressure. If your blood pressure's high, you have to look at these things. We don't go. Many of these people who are also in red states who don't have the proper healthcare plans are not going to be able to go. You have people dying of stroke and so forth, where if you got high blood pressure, you have high cholesterol, you have so some other items that are in there. It's going to give you some kind of an index where you've got a greater index of having a heart attack or stroke within a 10-year period and so forth. These people are not going to stand a chance because they're in states where they can't even get the proper coverage to get the medications that you may need to keep yourself, your heart healthy, or your cardiovascular situation in check. You have to look at this. How many people are walking around that have high cholesterol don't even know about it? How many have that? How many brothers walk around that don't have it, have not gone to their doctor to check what they need, and if they need a statin or something else like that, are they taking it? Can they even get a prescription for it? Can they even get a script for it? In some states, this is very difficult. So this is where your politics and so forth come into your healthcare. We saw that certainly during COVID. So, these are the things that we have to be really up on. And you have a lot of these people who are just not thinking about it. They're talking the culture war, but at the end of the day, it's killing you. So you have to really think about this 3-dimensionally. I myself am going to the doctor. I'm over 60 years old today. I'm over that. Okay, I'm over the 60-year-old mark. So now I have to consistently watch my blood pressure. I have a blood pressure machine here in my house. I have if I needed to take high blood pressure medication, I would. Certainly, I definitely am taking a statin to keep my my cholesterol levels down. Definitely so. That's going to clog up your arteries. 10 years down the line, if I'm leaving that going, I'm looking at a heart attack. So, that's for sure. That's not, oh, maybe that'll happen. That is for sure. How many of us are sitting there in that zone right now and are not even looking at it? Kevin Samuels keeled over and croaked like a rat because he did not take care of his he was not taking his high blood pressure medication.
And can I share something with you real quick, Nagon?
He didn't do it.
Yeah. Recently, I had.
I got AB Media in here. AB Media.
No. We're not getting into that. Let's answer
hopefully, you go to the doctor. You ain't looking too healthy either. So I'm just saying, we need to be looking at this kind of stuff. Very important. And anyway, go ahead, Jay Shine. Go ahead.
Yeah, recently I had an agoplasty done. So I had a health scare a couple years ago, and just because, and the reason I'm bringing this up because I had to get a blood pressure machine too, but we found the problem. Right? We found the problem. And because I have healthcare and I'm responsible, I overdo it. The doctor like, yeah, I see you in 6 months. I'm like, nah, I see you in 2. You know what I mean? I don't care about the deductible. I pay the paper to go. Even though we know what the problem was, we caught it and we good to go. So basically the lower right chamber of my heart wasn't getting enough blood. It was blocked. So they opened it up. It was good. There was no long-term issues. I'm feeling great. Everything is good. But because I had healthcare, I was able to go in, get a sonogram, and and see what was going on. Right now, I still got the blood pressure machine. I don't use it, because I don't need it anymore. My blood pressure is fine. But if I do feel funny, I have a machine in my house I can use. Then go to the doctor. You see what I'm saying? But even with everything being fine, even though I got a clear, bill of health, guess what I still do, Nagon? I still go every 6 months.
Did that happen before the bratwurst or after?
Nah, I don't eat bratwurst. It was something I was dealing with for a long time. I didn't know what it was until it caused a pulmonary edema. Well, I thought I had the flu, right? Yeah. And it got really, really bad. And that's when, but I didn't know what it was. And again, self-medicating, not going to the doctors, but I really didn't know what it was. I thought I was just, I had a cold, and it wasn't that. It was something else. It was a defect in one of my vessels, and they found it, thank God. And I'm alive, and everything is good to go. I'm completely, normal and healthy. And guess what? Even though I'm still normal and healthy and I feel good, I still go get the cardiological checkup every 6 months.
Is it the VA or private?
That's private. So I'm in Germany. This is happening while I'm in Germany.
Oh, okay. Because I thought you were going to I thought you were doing the VA thing.
No. So you know how it is in Germany, right? So we got to pay out of pocket and then get reimbursed some of our money back from our healthcare provider. So I'm paying big paper just to get checked up for the sake of getting checked up. That's how cautious I am.
Well, if you don't do that, it's going to kill you. If you're walking around here with a lot of us walking around here with BMIs of 28, 30% and all this and saying, oh, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Is that BMI black male independence or
Jesus Christ, Mike?
But that's real shit. Hey, Mike, that is real shit, man. Brothers, even brothers who have healthcare won't go to the doctors. You know what I mean? So this is something that we really got to preach to black men overall. But that's why I had to push back on the emergency room thing, because I know there's black men with healthcare who don't go to doctors, like Nagon was talking about. You know what I mean? So
you don't know. Now I go to the gym. I love the gym. I love hitting that heavy ass weight. Of course, I lift heavy weights and that kind of stuff like that. Not only to be strong, but to be swole. But I use that as self-defense too. Somebody gets their hands on you, want to be able to snap a nigga up if you have to. But anyway, at the end of the day, you can sit here and say you go to the gym, you do certain things, but you still have to check yourself out. Because you don't know if you have a problem or not. And that is a big issue with us. That is a huge issue with us. And a lot of us talk smack. They get up here. Here we can obviously see here in the Black Manosphere. Let's talk about it. We're here in the Black Manosphere. How many, we mentioned how many men that we know already who have died, and how many men who have died behind the scenes that we don't even know about.
About a half dozen. About a half dozen.
Yeah. And we've had, and these are prominent people. David Carroll walking around talking about, hey, yo, I'm in Ohio and screw all this, man. You niggas crazy.
So he's saying how many? So he's saying to go on how many? You wondering how many chat room goons we lost?
How many? We definitely lost chat room goons. They some of these guys are dead, and you're not going to know about it. All right. Yeah. Dave Carroll probably ended up stinking in his apartment before they found his bloated ass dead like a motherfucker up in there, which is horrifying. Okay. Yeah. Then we had other brothers out here who have died. Okay, that have died of preventable situations, and this is in our manosphere. We have some of the brightest guys in here, and some of the most ignorant mofo's that have fell from a woman walking this mother. So we have a mixture of all of that, and we have to sit down and look at this because this affects us all. I
just want to make one last point before we move on.
Look at this very realistically. We have to talk about this very.
Exactly. I want to make one last point before we move on back to my personal situation. The reason why I divulge that because one, I'm not ashamed. All right, we are human beings. You know what I mean? None of us are perfect. I had a defect that I didn't know about. You know what I mean? And my doctor told me, yeah, we good to go. We had the agoplasty done. You know, everything's looking on the up and up. We're going to see you once a year. I was like, no, you're not. You're going to see me twice a year.
Yeah.
He said, well, you know, you got to pay. I don't care. I pay deductible. Because I'm gonna give y'all some game. What's so cool about the cardiologists over here and probably in the States, if you got real good healthcare, when they do your full checkout, they give you the sonogram. You can actually look at your heart. They got machines that go inside your body, and it's just cool as hell. I got video of this shit.
Yeah, echocardiograms and all.
Wonderful. Yeah, man. So wonderful stuff. Then they put you on a bike, they test you out, they put the EKJs on you. I go through the whole gamut just for the fuck of it. I want to make sure that I'm alive. I want to live, even though they gave me the clean bill of health. I'm still going.
You have to and see, and these are smart. These are the smart brothers in the room talking. These are not the ignorant. These are not the ignoraminations making comments. These are
I'm not doing no tough guy. This ain't no tough guy shit. All right.
No.
You know, it's a good point because I tie in my Fitbit health with my doctor. He can see everything in real time on what my statistics are, how many steps I'm getting in per day, what my heart rate is, you know, all of the necessary data that can be piped in through an API back to my clinic. So, you know, they like to see this sort of data. Data is very important. We don't have enough data on deck to really make significant public policy decisions. I mean, we do now, but before we didn't have that. But now we can. You should be sharing this data with your doctor as much as possible.
Well, you should be. My doctor, right? She looked at me. She was like, "Listen, you're sporting a lot of muscle, so you're heavier than what you should be. Technically, you should be obese, but you're not." But she says the bottom line, very simply, is the fact that you're carrying a lot of muscle. You're older now. You're in your 60s. Now you're in your 60s. So what you have to do is I want you to slim down even more, maybe not put on as much muscle mass because the older you get, Carl, she was saying, hey, listen, your heart's got to push harder against that. It does have to do that. You will have to push harder. Your heart will work harder for doing that. Bring your weight. And she was saying, you know, you just bring that. You could start to lean down. You don't have to. You don't have to get swole now. You know, you don't need to be 60 swole. You don't have to be swole. You know, it's great lifting weights, but you know, just think about that. And we're talking about these things. Yeah. So these are things that I'm having conversations with my doctor. Now, this was as of last Wednesday. So, you know, I'm going there again in April. So I'll be at my doctor again in April, and then I'll go again in December. So this is the kind of role. This is what you have to do to stay healthy. Now I'm in New York. We are in a blue state. My state works fine when it comes certainly healthcare and all that. You can get healthcare, and Lord knows if I had to get like Medicaid or something else like that, if I had to get that. Oh, I would certainly be on that as well if that was the case to keep my health going as well. I would take all of that. and just to keep my healthcare at a prime level. We have Obamacare here. You have affordable healthcare here. So you are going to be okay if you want to take a look at yourself. Some states you can't have that. Some of these red states, South Kakalaki and some of these other joints, these shithole states are sitting here, got you up in here, uptight, no healthcare, dying prematurely. I believe personally that is a planned program as well, but I'll leave that alone. I'll leave that alone too.
I fully agree with you, Nicole.
But
I agree.
But that's a part of that. So we have to sit down and regulate ourselves as we start to get into your 40s, 50s, and 60s. We have a lot of Black men, many in this manosphere, who are in their late 30s, 40s with high blood pressure right now as we speak.
Probably don't even know it. Probably don't even know it. Yeah.
Some have premature kidney disease. Their kidneys are starting to go because they've got some of this. They're getting it. They're moving into that range. There are these things that exist. They they don't even know it. Yeah. They're blocked 30-40% already.
We've been over here pushing e-bike use, Mike, and my lion.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm gonna tell you right now that like we're talking about actual practical ways. I'm always on the e-bike or the e-scooter out here. I stay active. That's one of the main things. You gotta be active. Like I'm active to the point where the shit that fucks me up is when I crash.
Yeah. Well, I got three suggestions. I got a couple suggestions.
And I was gonna say this very quickly. We have to watch that. We are in this. The Black Manosphere. I know when we've done this many times on the Brain Trust. We've had Dr. Phoenix up here. We've had my sister Shonda up here, Shonda H. You know, she's been up here. Other folks have been up here and talked about this. What do we have? 10, 11 people in the chat room, fine. But we still have to consistently put this information out because your life is on the line, whether you understand that or not. When I had high cholesterol, I did not know it. Until it got tested.
We got Dr. Phoenix in the chat too. Salute to
so Doc Phoenix is here, and you got high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all these things lead you to having a stroke or a heart attack.
Yeah,
that's gonna take you out. Okay, a lot of these brothers have already gone out this way. We got to think about it. Go ahead.
I got two quick suggestions, and I got a question for Mike. So my two quick suggestions is this. This is what I recommend brothers do right now. If you have healthcare, when you go get your regular, you should be getting a regular checkup. I'm not even suggesting that. You should be doing that anyway. So when you have your annual checkup, get a recommendation for a cardiologist if you need one, you know what I mean? And then go see a cardiologist to get a full cardiological exam, okay? The technology they have is so cool now, and it's worth doing. The second thing you need to do is get full blood work done. I'm not talking about the 2 vials. I'm talking about the 7, where you get you get your blood checked out. And you might have to take a day off because they take a lot of blood from you when they do this. And you get checked out for diseases, all kind of chronic diseases. You get checked out for everything. It's worth it. You don't have to do that every year, but you should go do it if you haven't done it before. All right. And my question to Mike is, what do we do? What do we suggest to the brothers who don't have healthcare? You know what I mean?
They should go apply.
You have to apply. You have to get it where you can.
Let me answer it. Yeah, let me answer it. You have to apply, and the enrollment window, I think it's between like late September to November 17th or something like that, or Thanksgiving, just before Thanksgiving. And so if you don't have it, they will try to seek it out for you when you go to an emergency room. They're gonna have to sign you up because of your state of being. And so they ask you a battery of questions, including whether or not you're unhoused, and what your living situation is and what your income is and things like that. They collect all this data for a reason, because they have to report on the fact that they have this person inside their institution that needs attention, needs assistance. And so they keep track of all that stuff. And so if you're unhoused and you need housing, they will seek it out for you. If you need proper healthcare coverage, they will offer it to you on the spot.
Mhm.
And you may not have to pay for it, depending on what your situation is. But I know in this state, if you don't pay, you know, if you don't have healthcare coverage throughout the year, they will take it out of your taxes. They will figure out a way to get in your wallet. And so it's best for you to actually get it than to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And so that's my suggestion.
So, you know, so Mike, I just want to say this, man. When I was suggesting a minute ago about getting your blood work done, they test your sugar levels, your cholesterol levels. They test a lot of different things, and it's not always bad news. In my situation recently, I just found out I have extra high testosterone, right? So that what that means is I can still build muscle.
Oh, you can build
right?
muscle into your 90s. You can build muscle
Yeah.
into your 90s. We know
But
this.
you know, you
you
some
can build muscle into
people,
your 90s.
you know, some people when they get over 45, 50, they start losing muscle mass, right? So, you know, this depends on the person. But I found out that I have immense potential for muscle mass. So I can keep building muscle. That's good to know. You know what I mean? So it's not all bad news. Just go find out what's going on inside your body.
Everyone could do it. I love these weights. I got 20 fucking inch arms. I'm fucking guns out, suns out. You damn right. I'm trying to look swole as fuck. But at the end of the day, and I'm 60, fuck it. 60. Don't fuck with me. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how I play it. But at the end of the day, al fin de dia, you have to take a look at everything you got going on with yourself. You have to take a look. I don't care how live or how swole you think, how badass you think you are. The one blood vessel pop in your fucking brain, and you are fucking up out of
here. Yep.
You out of here. Okay, quick, fast, in a hurry. Flavor's vision ain't blurry. That's how you're going out. So we have to sit down and really talk about this because we have too many people in this manosphere that we like to talk, that we talk in and get a hold of brothers. Too many of us are going out before our time. And that's because we are not doing the fundamental basics. Your man's, Kevin Samuels, your man's in them. He dead. 56 years old. That nigga younger than me. Okay, he dead. What's he doing in the fucking ground? Maggots crawling through his ass right now. What the fuck is that? All right.
Let me move on to the next item on the docket. He did not
take care of himself. You have to watch these guys.
Yep.
All right, criminal justice. Black men face a much higher chance of being incarcerated according to Bureau of Justice data. The figure below shows the proportion of state and federal prisons of each race and gender compared to the share of the U.S. Adult population. Black men are overrepresented among prisoners by a factor of 5, 32% versus 6%. I mean, this is, you know, something that we've already discussed before at the onset of this, but, you know, stop penalizing people for, you know, nonviolent infractions. You know, we talked about this earlier. The lieutenant who was pulled over, Karan, in Virginia, you know, that could have went sideways had there not been body cam footage or him recording it himself. Something as minor as a moving violation almost got him taxed out there. So these sort of things are what keeps Black men in the system for no other reason. There's no reason to be pulling. You never see white folks getting pulled over like that in their Subarus or their you know, their what do you call it? Their Buicks and stuff like that. Yeah, folks aren't getting pulled over like that. I see them breaking laws here all the time. You know, in and out of breakdown lanes and stuff like that. They ain't getting pulled over, man. But you know, brothers getting pulled over on a regular basis for things that are unjust. We saw that with Philando Castile. Oh, it smells like marijuana's in the car. So what? Like, how does that, you know, equate to anything that justifies you having to pull the burnout on him? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
you know, it's
you
really
should
strange.
die. I smell marijuana. You need to die. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and so, you know, these minor infractions that, you know, that Black men are accruing on their daily journeys has to be stopped. You know, some of these other things like child support, putting Black men in jail for child support and things like that, that shouldn't even happen. That should never happen. No one should be kicking your door in because you didn't pay. I think that's a ridiculous way of dealing with civil justice issues. So. I mean, we saw Kyle Rittenhouse walk around with an AR-15 and nobody tackled him or anything like that. Yeah, it just frustrates me to hear, you know, folks getting off on the other side, but, you know, on this side, you know, getting jammed up in the system. So,
you know how that go.
Yeah. All right, that's it. I'm not going to go through the rest of this. I think that we've covered most of this. You know, the links in the chat if anybody wants to join. I think we'll stay on for another 45 minutes or so. Jay Shine, you're in Uganda. How is the weather out there, and what's the socialization like on the ground?
Well, I just got here today, so
Okay.
and then I gotta. I came to the hotel and I drove through Kampala and all that, kind of see the situation out here. First of all, it's hot and humid. This humidity is on a different level. I've never been. This humidity is different. I've never been in this kind of humidity before. This is Grilling and Mist, the movie out here.
How's
You know what I
the pollution?
mean? I can't look. The city is not, what it's not Kigali.
Yeah.
Kigali is pristine.
Yeah. It's the
Kigali is
cleanest
one of
city
the
on the continent.
it's one of the cleanest cities I've ever been in. Period.
Yeah.
I've never been in a city that clean before. I've been in a lot of cities all over Europe. I've never been in a city that clean before. That city is spick and span.
They're out there at 5 o'clock in the morning cleaning that city.
Yep, and that's what you see coming in. And I came in early too. I came in an early flight. I think I landed like 4 something in the morning. But anyway, Kampala, what I've seen so far, the people are cool. There happened to be an African wedding going on at the hotel when I got here. I met the groom, the bride and groom, and everything. And I bought a bottle at the duty free, and I gave it to the groom as a gift. So I met a whole African family that's out here, and they've been partying for 7 hours. They just stopped.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, the people are cool. Was jumping out here. It seems like the people are nice and they festive, but there's a lot of work to be done in Kampala. There's a lot of work out here, and you can definitely see the difference between when you go from a Kigali to a Nairobi to a Kampala. It's a huge difference. You know
Massive.
what I mean? Massively different. There's a lot of infrastructure issues here, but again, there's a lot of potential here. But it's all about leadership.
Yeah. Yeah, I that's my experience as well. I've been to Kigali. I was in Accra a few weeks ago. Night and day difference. Night and day difference.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most of your what was supposed to be your Black Power centers of excellence turned out to be failures from a civil infrastructure standpoint. Something as basic as sewer drains. We talked about this when Ike was on the panel a few days ago about. I got out of my boat because I use boat in Ghana, and I got out of it at night, and I wasn't paying attention. I almost fell into a sewer drain. Almost got swept away. So these are the sort of civil infrastructure gaps that need to be addressed throughout the continent. The whole continent is like this, with the exception of Rwanda. Rwanda seems to have gotten it right. The rest of them, are still struggling to really figure things out. I think that these gaps are due to the fact that they just lack the budget. Things get started and they can't be completed because they just don't have the access to the capital to finish it.
Yeah, and it's also a lot of corruption too, Mike. It's just we got to be honest about it. There's a lot of corrupt leadership out here, and then they have so many international interests pulling at them. So you got these countries, these nation states. Company fronts that are really nation state. Doing the purpose of nations coming in here, and they don't care about the people. They just want to extract what they can get out of it. So they grease the palms and keep certain people in power. And I'm actually, we had a discussion last night in Nairobi about this. It was a bunch of expats, African Americans, and one Kigali woman. Last night we had a spirited conversation about this because we had this couple that are Nation of Islam that were out there for 2 years, and they were hiring Kingalis, and they were talking about the trauma that came out of the Civil War. But it got heated when we started talking about President Kagame, and and I had to look. I was like, look, we know he used to be a killer, right? We know all kinds of stuff, but he has done a remarkable job in setting that country up for a win, for a great future. What I've seen in Kigali was immensely impressive. It was incredible to see what Kigali looks like right now, based on what it looked like in the 90s. You know what I mean?
When I came back from Rwanda, that was my experience as well. That this is what a Black community should look like.
Yeah,
that's what it should look like.
Bro, I invested in some tech when Mike came back off of that.
Yeah. And so people have not been there, Jay Sean. They don't know. Like that's what that's what a real community looks like. They have the lowest crime rate on the whole entire continent.
Right.
It's unheard of
I
to
was walking around with my jewelry on. I had diamond rings on, and nobody was messing with me. But I'm not wearing that shit in Uganda.
yeah, same thing in well, same experience I had was that one of my boys had lost his iPhone. It dropped out of his pocket when we were sitting on the bench or something like that. And
Right.
someone actually picked it up, ran down the street after us and gave it to him. Like that's the sort of experience that you have. Same thing with my laptop. I had left it on the table in the convention center, the Kigali Convention Center, and came back an hour later. It was still there, untouched.
Yeah.
People
When you go
just
to
don't.
Kigali,
Yeah,
when you go there, you can't help but say, you know what, to yourself, just a part of you is going to say, I want
yeah.
to invest here. I want to do business here. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because how they got it structured. My concern for them though is this. My only concern for them is this, Mike. Who comes after the Gummy? You know what I mean?
That's a
Who
good
comes after
question.
what happens after him? You know what I mean? Does it keep going? You know what I mean? That's the issue for me because I know he got people around him that got agendas. You know what I'm saying? And that
Yeah.
tribalism shit is serious on the continent.
Hey,
So what
Mike.
happens after he leaves? I'm sorry, go ahead, Complex.
Oh no, I was gonna say there's a question about what we're talking about. Mr. Magnetic asked. He said, "How are the challenges importing heavy equipment and tools?" And he's importing into African countries. I have something to say about this, but I mean, if y'all gentlemen want to go first,
I can give you my
and then
opinion because
I
I
yeah,
met a
I'll
couple.
put in on it.
I
Okay,
met
go
a
ahead.
wife of a couple that's making sausage. They live here in Uganda, and they have they make chicken sausage, and they're importing and exporting all the time over here, and they said it's gotten better. Now, what they have done in East Africa is they've opened the borders to each other, which is a beautiful start. One of the biggest things holding Africa back for decades has been the trade situation, the immigrant situation. What I'm saying is that even Watermeyer showed this on his channel. He's from Ghana, and he's doing his program Africa to the world. So he's going to different African countries and trying to show beautiful sides of Africa. But one of the biggest things he was having problems was getting into the countries as an African. Now,
Yeah.
me as an American, I can go into any African country I want with a blue passport, right? Same thing with the Europeans. So what does that do? That means the business communities from those countries could come and go as they please, but other Africans can't. So how are you going to have trade on a continent where when you don't have that kind of relationship with each other? Now let me give you the flip side of that. I live in Germany right now, as I know. When I'm ordering furniture or when I order my treadmill, when I order certain things, I ordered that stuff came. Some of that stuff came from France. Some of that stuff was made in the Netherlands. Some of it was made in Scandinavia. Guess what happens when I order it? They can just drive it right down to to the warehouse in Germany and have it distributed. There's no borders. It's wide open. You can drive from Netherlands all the way over to Romania. You know what I mean? With no
Yeah.
problems. You know what I mean? So that in itself sets the plate for business and commerce for people to do business. So if you want to do business right now, you got to go to certain areas where there's open borders. Right now, that's it's wide open right now in between Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. They're all opening their borders to their citizens. So their citizens now can move around as they please, which is going to make business pop off, which is a good look. It's going to take time for it, for it to come, but I don't. That was the biggest enemy to Africa. You have all these nation states coming into these countries at will, but other Africans couldn't. You know what I mean? And when I learned that a few years ago, I thought about that. I said, that's crazy. That is fucking
Yeah.
crazy. But it's
Yeah.
been like that for decades.
But
But my
like the kind of. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
yeah, to answer his question, you got to specify what you're bringing over there because you can't just bring what you want.
Well, I was
Tool
going to say
wise,
that's what I'm saying. He said heavy equipment, so let's talk tractors, excavators.
yeah, because there's import tariffs on
Yes, that's what I
things.
wanted to get to.
There's import tariffs on things you have to
Right,
pay
I
for
like
it
that
to make
question.
it.
I
right,
like that question.
and then there's
Yeah.
also certain shit that you can't import.
Yeah, it depends on what it is that you're trying to
What it
import and
is,
for what reason. You have to have a
right?
business visa before you start importing things to begin with, and then you have to specify what exactly are you bringing over there, so
And
that
the
they can
duties are
inspect it.
heavy. If you're
Yeah,
if you're going U.S. to Africa, I'm gonna tell you right now, the import duties are heavy. We kicked the tires on sending scooters over there, right? Like literally from a financial standpoint, kind of doesn't make sense unless you got like a 2 year projection model to get your money back. It would take that long, right?
Yeah.
When you add it
Yeah.
all up. So it just certain things also you have to look at whether there's viability to do it, to put the capital investment in it, or if there's some sort of alternative where maybe what you do is you source the same type of materials from a more trade friendly country and you move it that way.
The other half of it is that you can't just set up business in a lot of
And then there's that
countries.
part.
You can't just set up business like that in a lot of countries, especially like Ghana what we call it, like Kenya. You got to pair it with somebody on the ground. They don't just allow you to set up shop and get away with that. It doesn't work like
Yeah.
that.
And that's
And
what I
so,
meant, Mike. They go as them coming in as nation states. Like when China comes in, right? Their companies come in. That's China coming in. You see what I'm saying? It's not like an individual company from China coming in to do business. I like this question from Mr. Magnetic because it opens up a deeper issue in the diaspora. Who are the most skilled and talented Black people on the planet? Americans.
yeah, African Americans.
Black Americans, all right. Why is the Black Africa not tapping us? Why are they not opening their their countries up to our builders,
Well,
our
they
earth
actually done
movers?
that, Jay Shine. That's what the U.S.
Yes.
The Africa Business Summit is for, and so they have that every year. So they have it about
I
two
mean,
or
I'm
three
sorry,
times a
I
year.
asked the question wrong. Why have it? I'm talking past tense. I know what's coming, but I'm saying that they had people they could have reached out to a long time ago to help build their roads. And I'm gonna tell you something about the West, how racist the West is. Think about all the infrastructure issues they have in Africa. You know how much money John Deere could have made? You know what I mean?
Well,
Caterpillar. You know what I mean?
well, they don't see the return on investment though, Jay Sean. They don't look at it from that perspective
That's
because
that.
it has to make sense to them. But from a Chinese perspective, it's hard for John Deere to compete with Kubota or some of those Southeast Asian brands, even some of the Middle Eastern brands as well, because there are different tractor makers out there as well. And so there's a lot of resources that can be tapped in. You have the U.S. Africa Business Summit that happens a couple of times a year. You can tap into those networks in DC and some of these New York and some of these other places that have it. I know that Kenya had a business summit down in Houston not too long ago. This was some months ago, and so we know that those that there's a desire to work with African Americans. It's just
Hey,
that do
Mike.
African Americans have their shit together, in order to even engage in these conversations? If you look up Dr. Harnett talks about this all the time. When she does her live streams and she does her Zoom calls. And so it's just a matter of folks having themselves together. I think that that's part of this issue is that a lot of Black men are not really business focused. They think about being a passport bro before being a business bro. So
And
There you
Mike,
go. Yeah.
I don't know if you recall this, but maybe about I want to say maybe mid late 2019. We had actually got contacted by the Ethiopian consulate in LA. Remember their diplomat was here and they went, do you remember this dude? They went on a tour from San Diego, LA, Bay Area, then they went to Portland and Seattle to basically court Black business owners to do business with the manufacturing. So in Ethiopia they had like textiles and a few other industries, and what they were trying to do was solidify business lines with Black business owners literally here along the West Coast. We covered that back in like mid or late 2019, bro.
yeah. I mean, Ethiopia has a large diaspora here that's very much prominent in a lot of your upward vertical systems, so institutions, and so that makes a lot of sense as to why they were
Yeah.
trying to court and tap. But I want to go to Dr. Phoenix
Go ahead.
because he's on the panel. How are you doing, brother?
How you guys doing?
Good.
What's going on, Doc?
Peace, Doc.
What's up? No, I'm actually
Hey, Doc, what's going on?
not much. Actually, enjoying some time off, but I just wanted to really quickly say something because I saw what you guys were talking about earlier about health and stuff like that. And I just want to say, a couple years ago, Mike V and I had a few discussions on the Black Brain Trust, talking about many of the very issues you guys were talking about, but so many black men just blew it off. So I just stopped bothering to talk about some of these things anymore. But I do want to say that as a whole, yeah, I wanted to address something from when I was on here last time, because I talked about a few things, but in particular, I talked about health insurance and Medicare and Medicaid and Medicare Part B and all that stuff. And I wanted to make something very clear to folks. Um, in the past week, there was an article came out, I believe it was in the New York Times, that was talking about the numbers of southern states who were kicking folks off of Medicaid and Medicare. So again, I want to be very clear about something. A lot of people seem to think that just because someone gets enrolled in something, they get enrolled into Medicaid or Medicare. And Shonda H was in the chat earlier, and she kind of highlighted this point, which is that it is very the way these systems are facilitated or administered, if you will, is very much at the behest of the state. It's not. It might be a government program, and the government funds it for for a portion of it, but the states also fund a portion of these programs. In other words, it means that it is very much at the behest of the state, not necessarily the federal government, how these programs are administered, how they are facilitated, and more importantly, what they choose to accept or don't accept, and what they cover and don't cover. And so, yes, it might be simple enough to say that, yeah, people get kicked off of Medicare Part B, but more importantly, it's also important enough to remember that as a whole, the system as a whole, they kick people off of Medicaid and Medicare all the time for a number of different little loopholes that are present in the system. There are a number of them. I can't name them all because there are just so many of them. But what I do know is that throughout the years, I spent plenty of time arguing, even as a critical care nurse, and even now arguing with insurance companies, and especially a lot of these state managed CMOs, um, for just coverage of certain conditions or medications. Because again, even though there were things that expanded sort of the medications that were covered under Medicare and Medicaid, it is one of those things that once again states have a lot of leeway on what they choose to talk about. I mean, excuse me, what they choose to cover or not cover. This is all this has always been the case. So
Hey,
just wanted
Doc.
to say that.
Hey, Doc,
Yes.
are you talking about scenarios like that couple that had to literally get a divorce in order for that guy's wife to get the proper treatments? Stuff like that?
I mean, I mean, a lot of these things are, I mean, these things are it's almost case by case in many respects. I think people don't really understand sort of the nuances and really sort of the politics behind the way Medicare and Medicaid is kind of issued, because, or how the system is sort of managed, if you will. People don't really, people just think, oh, well, I signed up for this, or people can sign up for this, and that's it, they're covered. No, it becomes nuanced, especially once you start to get into folks who have multiple comorbid chronic conditions, diabetes, heart failure, hypertension, people who have other conditions like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, various organ failures. In particular, if you're talking about black men, I talked about this last time. The numbers of black men who are experiencing who are in liver failure. Those numbers have been going up steadily over the years, and kind of sort of hit this sort of crescendo a few years ago, where now you've seen a significant number of black men who are needing liver transplants for a variety of reasons. A lot of it is not, and oftentimes we think people need liver transplants is because they got hepatitis. No, a lot of folks need liver transplants because of alcoholism, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, alcoholic fatty liver disease. And so these things become sort of an issue where there's a lot of gray area here.
Doc Phoenix, why don't you speak on also the increasing levels of kidney failure and kidney disease amongst Black men? Nobody's talking
I've
about
talked
that.
about this plenty of times before on this channel, but I will
No
reiterate
one's talking
this.
about that.
I reiterate this. If you can go to the you can go on the website right now. There's a national database for for those who are in kidney failure and need kidney transplants. You can go on the you can Google this and go check it out for yourself. But if you look at Black people in general, Black people make up about 40 to 42% of the total number of people who need kidney transplants.
What?
That's a
Yeah,
ridiculously high number.
What?
I don't. I've talked about this a few times before in the past, and I don't. And I think this falls on deaf ears with Black men because Black men do not pay attention to this stuff, or they just don't give a damn. Or everybody think you're gonna do a few things and whatever. You can listen to some clowns on YouTube or wherever tell you some stuff you can do, and then there's somehow magically gonna be this magical panacea that's gonna cure you or whatever. But I'm telling you this not just because of what I know as a medical professional, but more importantly, what I've seen firsthand. When I was an undergrad,
Mhm.
I facilitated healthcare discussions for Black men in the community in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. These folks know me by first. They know me on a first name basis. That's how I was. That's how involved I were with these Black men. And a number of these
But
Black men, number of these men number of these men end up having other issues outside of just some chronic health issues. Most of them had diabetes. Couple of them were on dialysis. In fact, one of the gentlemen, he had been on dialysis for probably about 8 to 10 years.
I remember you
He
telling
would
Damn.
us
never get a
about that.
liver
I
transplant
remember
because
you
the
telling
other
us
part,
about that.
Damn.
but
but
Dr.
the
Phoenix, let me
but
ask you this: where are they going to get these organs from? Because it's not just like something you can go down to a Grubhub or on some Uber Eats or something like order a transplant, organ for a transplant. It
that's a
doesn't
good
work
question,
like that.
Mike.
You get
No,
them
that's a
from the
Well,
good
music
question, Mike.
store.
nah,
Well,
you
typically,
roll
how
you roll a
transplant
young black
tip,
you roll up a young Black person in a gym mat. That's how you get organs.
uh, well,
You know what I mean? I mean, let's be honest about it. We know organ harvesting happens in this country. So there's certain
I
people who
mean,
get their organs and some people who don't.
I mean, I
Ooh,
mean, I
that's a
mean, I
touchy
wouldn't sit
subject.
here and tell you that organ harvesting is not a thing, but I would tell you just in a procedural process, how this typically works is that it's almost always um, efficient to test for next of kin. So
Yeah.
you look directly to next of kin, so immediate family members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you
Yeah.
expand it to
Yeah.
to the to the more tertiary family, if you will, and then you look into the wider population. And in the case of Black men, you want to look at other Black men. So if you have no matches within the family for that, you want to look at the wider population of Black men. But the problem is that if you don't have enough Black men who are willing to submit themselves for testing or even donation for that matter, then what happens? You end up with a situation what you see in most Black neighborhoods today, which is that you're seeing a litany
Right.
of outpatient dialysis clinics. And if you don't believe me, just go take a trip around your Black neighborhoods and tell me how many dialysis clinics you see within a 5 to 10 block radius.
Yeah, Fresenius, to your point, Dr. Phoenix, Fresenius is the biggest dialysis care provider in the country. They are like the
Yeah,
CVS of dialysis, and so they're in every
yeah.
Black neighborhood.
Yeah.
And one of the new ones that popped up in the last 6 to 7 years has been DaVita. So some of you guys might have seen them or whatever in the various areas where you're at, but DeVito was one of the big ones, and I can tell you this one from personal experience because I interviewed with them shortly after I graduated from undergrad, and they offered me a position for travel outpatient dialysis where it was a pretty lucrative position. I ultimately didn't take it, but it was a position straight out of undergrad, paying damn near $50 an hour. So, but that was I say that to say that for many Black men, and truth be told, if I'm really being honest here, in my opinion, is more like most. If you're on the kidney transplant list, it's highly unlikely you're going to get a kidney,
So it's a
which
deficit
means you're going to be outpatient dialysis for most likely the rest of your life.
in life,
And
yeah.
if you look at the lifespan for people on outpatient dialysis, not just men and black
Mhm.
men in particular, but people in general, it's typically 10 to 15 years. Because by that time, people's bodies begin to break down. It's just
Breakdown,
a
yeah.
lot.
So, Dr.
It's a lot
Face,
of
can you do me a
stress on the
favor?
body.
Can you do me a favor? Can
Yes.
you break down what dialysis is real quick for people who don't know?
Dialysis is just a process of taking the blood out of your body, cleansing it, and putting it back in. That's the simplest way to put it.
Now,
So
what about
it
3D
goes to a
printed?
filtration system that cleanses the blood. Because again, that's what your kidneys naturally do. They help to detoxify your blood. They work in tangent with the liver, because the liver also has similar functions. But in particular, the kidneys, their principal function is to help cleanse the blood.
Now, I don't want to
But
gross nobody out, Dr. Phoenix. Can you also add how it's done?
I'm sorry, say again.
I don't want to gross anybody out, but can you add how it's done?
That's kind of a long process that I wouldn't want to
Well,
explain right now.
Well,
That I'll
but my
have to
point
go
is
in.
my point is what I'm trying to make. I'm sorry, I just get to the point. But what I'm trying to say real quick, Mike, is this.
Mhm.
You know, there's a lot of things that we can do to prevent certain situations, and you don't want to be on dialysis. So that's the point I was trying to make. All right, it's not something you want to live. Yeah, I know family members who live that shit. It's not nice. It's not comfortable. It's not something you want to do. You don't want things tubes in and out of your body and carrying bags on you. You know what I mean, you don't want any of that stuff.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
that's the reality of black men hitting the wall.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
we
what I'm
Yeah,
don't
saying.
talk
That's what I
about
was trying
that.
to get to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't talk about black men hitting the wall. We talk about black women hitting the wall. There's a lot of brothers out here hitting the wall, torn out the frame.
Yeah.
Don't want to talk about it though. But
And they and they're
my
sitting up
question.
here right now listening. They're sitting up in here right now listening as well. Go ahead.
My question to Dr. Phoenix though, well, the 3D printed, organs and things like that. I'm starting to see more and more of that pop up. I wonder if that's an option, if you can't find the next of kin.
No, no, no. These things are still in the realm of research. Again, the idea of not even just 3D printing organs, but even finding ways to create artificial organs. Like we're looking at, one of the big ones has been creating the artificial pancreas. That's been one of the major areas of research for years now. And so again, very close in that regard, but also the fact remains that until those things become a viable reality. And again, I still think in many respects we're still a few years off from that. Um, you're still dealing with the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that Medicare and Medicaid, the way it's administered, yes, it's a federal program, but it is pretty much governed on a state by state basis, which is what I was alluding to last time I was on a panel. And so I want to make it very clear that yes, it is very possible for people to be removed from Medicare. Very possible. Not only is it very possible, it commonly happens.
Yeah, it
And it
does.
also
It does
commonly
happen.
happens, and it commonly happens that states can pick and choose which medications are covered under Medicare. For children, for example, Medicaid covers a lot of things like for children with asthma, covers nebulizer treatments, covers also if they need the medications, and also the machine, the nebulizer itself, that children you can take home. There's actually a home based nebulizer you can have, children can have, adults can have it as well. And that's also covered under Medicaid, Medicare. And so all these things become issues where if you have states wholesale kicking off hundreds of thousands of people at a time off of these programs, again, it's one of these things where, yeah, you guys may not have seen the article in the past week or so, where you've had states like Texas, Georgia, basically pretty much all of your southern states, who have kicked hundreds of thousands of people off of Medicaid, Medicare. And so
But
these things have been coming.
shouldn't they be protected under equal protection of the law?
No, because in many respects, again, that's what I was saying. A lot of this is gray area. You need
Okay.
some. I think even for medical providers, this stuff is really confusing. I don't think people understand because a lot of people like to blame medical providers if they say something, but a lot of stuff is really confusing. There's a lot of legalese and a lot of gray area and red tape involved here. So it makes it very difficult to say, well, how do you explain this person is covered but this person gets denied? How can you explain that this person can get their insulin covered but this person can't? And so it very much becomes a case by case scenario where you're seeing that um you're seeing now in recent times that so many people uh, are being kicked off of these various CMOs and such is that, again, a lot of it is much of it is political, to be honest. It just states playing politics,
And
and
it's
and
mostly in
so
the red
again,
states.
the problem is that black people and black men in particular bear a higher burden for this than other groups. Because
And
if
they
you're
help
already
us.
dealing with a scenario where you're already dealing with an issue where black people have issues that are more prescient in those populations. For example, high blood pressure. You guys were talking about that earlier. Guys having strokes, guys having aneurysms. I mean, Dr. Dre just had an aneurysm a couple years ago, right? We saw in the last 2-3 years, you've seen a number of black men that's on YouTube who died under some, I wouldn't call them mysterious circumstances, but certainly died under some very preventable conditions. You guys were talking about that earlier. I 100% agree with that. But also, too, how many of these men actually ever talked about these things? Black folks and black men in particular, only talk about this when it becomes convenient. When it becomes convenient, when you want to blame a medical provider, you want to blame a physician, or you want to blame a
Right,
nurse, or you want to blame whomever.
right.
But people don't
Dr.
talk
Phoenix, can I
about
cut?
how
Mhm.
so
Doc
many
Phoenix,
people walk in
Can
front of folks like me all the time, and you've been sick for years, and you expect somebody to work a miracle, and it doesn't happen like that.
just
is
ask
that
them
so?
what. Just ask them what states that are tending to really knock a lot of people off these Medicaid and Medicare areas. Just
Hey,
what states?
I can tell you right now. I can tell you right now. Indiana, right there on the screen, right there. What you guys seeing right here? Indiana,
Mhm.
where I'm at, in Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Arkansas. Basically, all your states where you see people already have poor health outcomes to begin with and poor quality of life to begin
Right.
with.
But
Look,
the
And
thing is,
unfortunately, many of those states are in the South, and some of them in the. And you do have a couple up north, like Indiana, but anybody's. I'm originally from Chicago, so anybody knows anything about Indiana knows Indiana is a very special state.
yeah.
I,
I just
I
want to say something real quick because you because you just said something, Dr. Phoenix, that's very important. Um, we need to have more conversations about this, and I try to be the example. Like I said all the time, and going, you heard me say this before. I talk the shit I know. I
Yeah,
talk what I live. I talk what I live.
yeah.
When it comes to women, I talk what I live. When it comes to custody situations or being a dad, I talk what I know. You know what I mean? And I'm not embarrassed to sit here and divulge that information because we need to have more of these conversations. So if I can be the jump off point as a real life situation to say, look, I was having many heart attacks. We didn't know what the fuck was going on. I had a heart issue that I did not know was going on. They put me on a bunch of pills. It wasn't solving the problem. I kept going back to the doctors. But what I did was I forced the issue. I chose to go to a cardiologist. You understand? That was a choice I make. And that's why I'm recommending to other black men. When you go to a regular doctor, they just look at your symptoms and they give you some prescriptions. You see what I'm saying? And that might not be the problem. I had a defect in my heart. I didn't have high blood pressure because I had high blood pressure from stress or whatever. I didn't have high cholesterol. I had a fucking blockage on one of my arteries. But I had an abnormality, and then we had to go through finance. Even when I went to the cardiologist, he put me on medicines, and then that shit didn't work. So it was a process. But I kept going back. I kept forcing the issue. Oh, we'll see you in 6 months. No, you won't. You'll see me next month. You know what I mean?
mhm.
I'm not dying.
Good point, Jay Sean.
Because I'm gonna tell you, because what's gonna happen is I'm gonna keel over, right? I'm gonna have a massive heart attack out of nowhere, right? And you know what they're gonna write on my death certificate? Died of natural causes.
Yeah.
Heart disease. That's what they're gonna put on my shit. They don't know what the fuck was wrong with me. And then we found the culprit. We found the problem. My lower heart chamber was not getting enough blood. That's why I was tired all the time. I'm
And
sitting
then the
here 40.
Manosphere is gonna have a memorial for you. Rest in peace,
Right.
bro. Always love you, bro. Yeah,
Right.
all right.
Yeah. So 44, so
Yeah.
44, 40, 44, 45 years old. And I wake up in the morning and by 11, 12 o'clock, I want to go back to sleep. That's not normal. That's not
Well,
normal
No,
to be
and I
that tight. You know what I mean? So something
no,
was wrong, and we had to find out what was wrong. That's what I'm saying. I will be the flag bearer if I have to. I'll be the guard on. You know what I mean? If I have to for this, please go get your shit checked out. Get your blood work checked out, and go. And then if you feel there's something even remotely wrong with your heart or hypertension, go to a cardiologist and get fully checked out, and do that shit once a year. And spend the money. It's worth it. If you're gonna spend money to save your paper to go to the Philippines, you better do this.
say something
I can
really
tell you,
quickly to add to what
doesn't cost you a lot of money to have basic health. I mean, it does not cost you a lot. It doesn't cost you a great degree of money, but the problem is many of us don't have access to it, and I think that's what's hurting a lot of us. And then especially here for brothers here in New York and the New York area, you know, a lot of cats who go to the doctor on a regular, consistent basis. You have access to it, but you can't fear going to the doctor. We do have that fear of going to the doctor. Go ahead.
I want to say something really quickly to what Jay Shine was saying is that more often than not, you will always be your best advocate.
Right.
And
Exactly.
Yeah.
that is something that I have preached to Black people in general over the years. Anyone that's been around me knows this. I have always preached that you will always be your best advocate.
Right.
If people tell you you have XYZ condition, I tell every single person that talks to me, go talk to someone else. Don't
Yeah, go
take
get a
my
second
word
opinion.
for it. Don't
Go
take
get a
the
second
next
opinion.
person's word for it.
Right.
Always get a second opinion. If you need to, get a third.
Mm-hmm.
I've always told people that because again, what medicine in particular, there are aspects of medicine that are not absolute. Okay, there are aspects of healthcare in general that are not absolute. So again, you being your advocate, you know what's going on with you better than what any physician or any nurse can ever write up or do an assessment and come to conclusions about.
And let's
So
go deeper.
you
Let's
have
go
to
deeper,
be your own.
Dr. Finks. Go deeper. Go deeper. Because the bottom line is that medical profession is that it's a profession. They have rules and guidelines. If they do what they're supposed to do based on the rules, right? Based on current policy, they're not in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Because these doctors are not your friends. They're professionals. Some of them will care more, some will care less. You have to be your only advocate. You have to be your biggest advocate. You have to. I am not dying in Germany. All right. That was going to happen. So whatever the fuck was wrong, we're going to find out what's going on. That was my mission, to find out what was going on with me. And I'm glad we found it. We got it taken care of. I feel great. I got my energy back. I feel normal again. Actually, I feel better. You know what I mean? So
How would you compare the healthcare system in Germany to the United States? Like,
I would say it's more thorough. To get the scans that I got, I would have had to go. First of all, I had to have a certain level of healthcare. That's
okay.
one. All right. That's one. You can't even walk into certain offices unless you have certain healthcare in America. America's healthcare system is very commercial. See, over here in Europe, they already have a social system where everything's covered. So, for instance, I'll go get off me. My daughter's eyes swelled up when her first year here because she was walking to the bus going to school in Germany, and you know, the wind was hitting her eyes and drying her eyes out, so her eyes swelled up. So we took her to the emergency room, and I'd never seen this happen before. We went to the emergency room. I had to give some money up. You know, is it like a deposit? You know, for her to be seen because we wasn't in their system. And then they looked at her eyes, and they took her to an eye doctor right away. She had a full eye exam as a walk-in. We didn't have to go to a, you know what I'm saying? That was part of going to the emergency room in Germany. It was a full scope checkout. They put her on a machine with her. She had to put her face on the chin. They looked, you know, they was all in her eyes, you know, checking her eyes out thoroughly to see what was going on. And they figured out what the problem was, gave her some cream for her eyes, and the swelling went down. And she's been fine ever since. But it was
You
from,
sound like a socialist, Jay Sean. You sound like a lefty.
I'm not. Hey, you call me what you want to call me. You call me what you want to call me. But
Oh
that
my
kind of service, blew my mind because that wouldn't happen in America.
Well, in
That
some
shit.
states in America, I think, you know, in the more
No, Mike V. In the system in America, even though with insurance, I would even with insurance in the system, in my in network. If I went to a hospital with the same situation, my doctor, they would have looked at her, gave her something to medicate her for the time being, and then they would send her to a whole other place for for a time a optometrist. If they did that, sometimes they send her back to her primary care doctor, physician first, and then a primary physician has to refer her to an optometrist. You know what I'm saying? They did all that
That's
shit
typically
in
how
one
that's
visit.
typically is how it works in the healthcare system.
Mhm.
Most referrals to specialists are facilitated through primary care providers.
Exactly. So walking
And
into
so that is typically how it works.
yeah, what they would have did in the emergency room is just what I call stabilize the person. You know what I mean? That's what this emergency rooms are for anyway. They're not there to heal you all the way. They got to get you stabilized and get you back to your primary care or get you to a specialist that can further do your treatment. They're not there to fix you. But when I went to that German place, they took her to the back to a whole other section of the hospital and did a thorough eye exam on her right there on the spot. And we was there for hours, right there on the
To an
spot.
extent, I will agree to an extent. There are parameters in which healthcare providers have to work within. So again, and that's part of the reason why I'm kind of a stickler where where black folks love to blame healthcare providers and people don't understand. Healthcare providers have their hands tied behind their back. There's only so much that
They can
we
do.
are allowed to do.
Right. Because
We
it's
are
right,
allowed to
exactly.
do, and much of that is dictated through insurance companies.
Yeah.
And the other portion of it is actually dictated through politics and administrative policies within hospitals. For example, most black folks don't have a will. Most black folks do not have a will. So something happens to you, or you're in a position where where you can't make decisions for yourself in a hospital, and there's no family, no one designated within your family, or you're not married who can make decisions for you. Who do those decisions fall on? A board or board of trustees in a hospital. And what decisions are they going to make in do you think they would make decisions that are going to be in the best interest of your health, or are they going to make decisions in the best interest of theirs?
Yeah.
And again, this is something that I've seen consistently over the years. Folks do not have living wills. Folks do not have a power of attorney. Nothing of the sort. And this
Well,
is this is this is almost exclusively I've seen this almost exclusively with black folks.
Yeah.
power of attorney, lead attorney, some kind of attorney. I mean, I mean, Manosphere board of trustees, guys on StreamYards deciding whether or not you should live or die.
Yeah. And so again, I think
That's
Jay
so
Sean
petty.
is making some great points here. Again, for me, given my position in this, you need healthcare providers. Again, there will always be a need for this. But again, so much of what happens in America, in particular as it relates to healthcare, is politically driven.
Yeah.
You have government policy, you have government programs, you have state programs, but it is almost always driven by politics in this country.
Yeah. And business. It's just big business. That's what it is. It's money.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
the
I mean, truth
capitalist
be told,
system.
healthcare is oftentimes very good for business. If people can get you in, and we can get you in and get you a CT, get you an MRI, get you a number of other, get you a bunch of labs. Oh yeah, we
And you
can
know what,
just
Mike?
run up the time.
You know what, Mike? You really gonna
And
call me a socialist for saying this? I'm gonna tell you this. This is what it is. Because they could take one issue, right, and move you
Mhm.
from 3 different offices. That's what would have happened to my daughter in the American system, right? When you
Mhm.
remove the money making component, guess what they did in Germany? They just sent it right to the eye doctor. You see what I'm saying? There's no money making component there. So they're not trying to take one problem that's coming in the door, make their money in outpatient. They make their money at the primary care provider. They make their money with the specialist. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I was just being facetious, but the point in the manosphere, in these social circles, they'll have you believing that, wanting a functional system like what they have in Germany is somehow, anti-American and
it's not just
somehow
Germany.
wrong.
It's Scandinavia. It's all these countries over. It's like 8, 9, 10 countries in Europe that are successful at this.
It's all of Europe. It's all of Europe. Spain, Italy, it's all of Europe. But a lot of these guys here, remember in the manosphere, they're not thinkers. These guys are going with this culture war, and they're not thinkers. They don't look at what's really going on. And a lot of these guys don't even know what's going on around their block. So how the hell are they going to know what's going on in other countries? So I mean, we are dealing with a certain level of ignorance.
Yeah, it is.
I do want to reiterate that it's convenient to blame the healthcare system, but you're not really addressing the perpetuators of the system as it is.
Right.
Again, it is politically driven.
Right.
Who put politicians in place? You have your lobbyists, and where are they coming from? They're coming from the health insurance companies. The health insurance companies almost always dictate 95% of what happens to you in a healthcare system.
And they're going to charge you for Advil or Tylenol, whatever it is that they're going to prescribe to you, even if you don't want it.
Again, there's a reason why you've seen all these stories pop up in the last few years where people have to ration insulin. I don't think people understand. A little 1 milliliter, 2 milliliter vial of insulin is like $100.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's ridiculously expensive.
I don't think people really understand this. And then you ask yourself, why the hell does this cost that? You have natural insulin, you have artificial insulin on the market. So I mean, there's numerous options for something like insulin, for example, but yet you're seeing sky high prices because again, it's the insurance companies, then it's the pharmaceutical companies. Physicians, nurses do not make pharmaceuticals, okay? Pharmaceutical companies make pharmaceuticals. They dictate the price, and what people don't understand is many of your name brand medications you think of, all your big names on the market. Do you realize the average patent on medications is generally between 15 and 20 years?
Yeah.
And so what happens is that oftentimes when those patents come close to expiring, they just change a little bit of the formula, just a little bit. You might remove a constituent atom here and put it over there, or just completely remove it and call it something else. But yet it's still the same medication, still has the same effect. But then you say, well, because we did this, it's now a new medication, but we get to reapply and get the patent extended for another 20 or 30 years.
Well, let me read this statement really quickly here. It says that Passion and Callous here, if we're being honest, Black women blame providers for outcomes, not Black men. This is the sort of, gender war talking point that is
Black men
espoused.
across the board do that. I've heard Black men here in this space do it. Mike V and I have been witnesses to Black men coming on panels with me on it, saying the exact same crap.
Yeah.
Look, man, I put a comment in there earlier, Mike, that addressing that gyno blase skippity doo-dah bullshit is not a solution. Dude, come on.
Yeah, I don't know if Black men are really paying attention. Go ahead, Dr. Phoenix, please.
No, I just want to say, Black men are not taking this issue serious. This is the problem with the internet and with Black men on spaces like YouTube in general. They don't take this issue serious. So Black men get out here in the real world and they find out, the world is not YouTube. The world is not Instagram or wherever the hell these guys spend their time at. So again, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say what's more troubling is that you've been here for about the last 35, 40 minutes, right, to my count. Verified professional. And this is the kind of retort you get. You get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, because it's go ahead, Dr. Phoenix, please. No, I was just
I'm
gonna
gonna say
say,
that.
I was just gonna say that because that's the knee-jerk response within the culture of the space. And so when confronted with information and data and facts that contradict your beliefs, your knee-jerk response is to, turn it into a gender war issue, even though it has nothing to do with the gender war. That's that, but when you only hang in one or two content creators channels, that's the sort of culture that gets cultivated over there. So we're not here for that. But I think if Kevin Samuels or a couple of content creators had access to the same quality care that Jay Shine had in Germany, then you would probably see a lot more survival rates. The survival rates would be significantly higher.
Now,
I also think
I'm sorry.
I
Go
was
ahead,
going to
Nico.
say I don't think some of these guys go to a doctor, because somebody like a Kevin Samuels, he could have just taken high blood pressure medication and gone to a doctor periodically every couple of months. First starting out maybe 2 or 3 months, intervals when he first started, and watched his blood pressure come down. They could have managed that. They could have managed that very easily. That could have been managed for him. I know what happened with my mom. She had it later on in life, and they were able to manage it until she passed. And she was 93 years old. She had high blood pressure a lot of years, but she managed with medication. She was on that stuff good 10, 15 years, somewhere around there. But you can manage that issue. A lot of people are just not going. They're not really looking at what they should be looking at, and that's a big part of our problem. Being in Georgia, I think he might have had an issue. Maybe getting healthcare would have been a huge problem for me. Maybe so, because I know some of those red states are there, so you don't get it. So I believe it's a political issue, as we said before, to cull the ranks to some degree. But certainly, if he was here in New York, and had maintained address here in New York and came back and forth, and had I known him and been close with him, I would let him use my address, and he could have been able to hang up underneath there. If he had that kind of issue and didn't get the coverage, I would have definitely helped him out, or any other brother for that matter, like that. So yeah, I think that's a
Very
big issue.
quickly,
I want to point out something really interesting about what Mike said a minute ago, and I want to loop it back to what Dr. Phoenix said. What's interesting, Mike, about my situation in Germany is that I'm using an American healthcare provider.
Oh wow, okay, wow.
The medical providers are German. My physicians are German. See, what's funny is that my healthcare provider is servicing me abroad, but they have to adhere to German law. So I got American company, American Armed Forces Services, which is provided by Aetna, right? They're providing me my insurance. They ain't reimbursing me. They're paying for my healthcare, but it's by the rules of Germany. That's you see what I'm saying? It's insane how that can be a situation for tens of thousands of Americans abroad, but we can't do it in America because it's the laws and environments. Kind of, so what Dr. Phoenix is saying is correct. It's about the lobbyists in America. It's about the laws. It's about policy. You know what I mean? Yeah.
You also have medical tourism too. You have a lot of cats going down to Mexico to get their teeth done and other sort of issues.
Dental care carries some of the highest insurance premiums of all.
Yeah,
that's why
I did that myself.
That's why so many Black children have bad and rotting teeth at early ages, because they can't afford dental care.
Yeah. Now, I want to just say real quick before we move on. I'm abusing the situation in Germany. I could not go to a specialist as much as I do in Germany. If I was back in America, they wouldn't let me. You know what I mean? They wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me have a test after test after test after test after test. The Germans is like, well, shit, you're not even in our system. As long as you pay me, we don't care. See what I'm saying? I'm in a gray area and I'm abusing it. I'm abusing the hell out of it.
You're not abusing it. You're using it.
Exactly.
You're using it.
Exactly. So when they tell me 6 months, I'm like, no, I'll be back next month.
Don't use it.
You know what I mean? I'll be back next month. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back to Aetna and claim the services. Reimburse me. Thank you.
I mean, how else do you keep a functional society if you don't have, access to systems and services that are like this? In America, Black men are at the the one.
So let me give you just a quick example on the number side. So Aetna sets up for us over here, $600 that we got to eat up front, right? I blow past that on purpose. You know what I mean? I go to my first, few appointments. That's like 300 and some change, almost $400. So now everything I do after that 600, they got to reimburse me for. So I punish them. I punish them. And I punish them. I get my grams. I get the gel put on my body. The gone. It feels nice and cold. They go up in there. I see my heart on the screen. I be loving it. Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. Exam me.
Yeah, bro.
You know what I mean? Until we find out what the fuck is going on. Because I'm not going to just die because you guys won't let me go to the doctor. That's, you see what I'm saying? And that's the other part of the conversation, that when we do get into the game, when you do get people who are active about their health, there are some other restrictions that fall into place too.
They are.
I
It's just
want to
like,
bring up something based on what
I just
Mike
want to
V
say
have
one
up
last.
on the screen.
Oh, I just want to say one last thing, because Mike's got some great stuff. I know you guys are getting ready to get into it, but one little situation with me, Jay, is like, got a little back issue. Doctor's like, hey, listen, you might have a little curvature there. I'm not a chiropractor. Let's go. Let's get you over there to see your orthopedist. Make sure we get all that right. Make sure we get all that straight. So I'm constantly working on things here and there just to make sure I'm tweaking myself. The older I get, there's gonna be more problems. I got to be on top of them. We have to really be on top of these issues. That's why these kind of streams are very important. And people really have, and folks can say bullshit and all that. I see somebody in the chat saying this, but these are the guys who are pushing ignorance. But yet, when something comes up to bite the hell out of you and finish you off, you're not gonna be claiming that. So you have to really stay on top of this stuff. And I know you guys are getting ready to get into some critical information here. So go ahead.
Go ahead, Dr. Phoenix.
Say something based on this graph you have up here. Think of three of the most high-profile Black men who are on YouTube in the manosphere, if you will, who've died over the last couple of years. What ages were they?
Oh, excellent.
53, 54, 55, 56.
Do you guys see a pattern?
That's that prime time right there. There you go. There
You
you
guys see a
go.
pattern. I
Yeah.
talked about this a while back, probably about a year or two ago. I talked about this, and again, there's a reason why you're seeing that consecutive those consecutive ages at which these men have died. There's a reason why. And so again, if you have Black men, they're all Black men. And these are just the ones that we know of in you that were on YouTube. Think about folks like John Singleton. He was around what, 55 when he
Yeah, he
died.
was. Yeah.
You just had the
Uh
other brother who passed away from the Wire, I think it was.
yeah, The Wire.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
Yeah, that brother, he had lung cancer.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about him was, and not even funny, let me rephrase that bad choice of words here. The interesting thing about his case, he wasn't even a smoker. And he died from lung cancer.
Secondhand smoke, maybe.
Be a number of things.
Some kind of
Okay.
environmental.
I don't know his case, but I do know for a fact he was not a smoker.
Look
And
healthy
you think
too.
just this year alone, another high profile Black man, Jamie Foxx, had a stroke. Jamie Foxx is how old? 53, 54, something like that.
Yeah.
So we've seen a number of high profile men on YouTube who have died in the past year, right in their early to mid 50s, right in that between 50 and 60 years of age. Then we've seen a number of high profile Black men who've also experienced major health issues at that same age. But yet somehow you have Black men telling you there isn't an issue here.
Insanity.
But we're seeing this consistent pattern. Now there's no question that Jamie Foxx, John Singleton, and the really sad part about John Singleton, he died with an estate in was it I forgot the exact term. It escapes me now because he didn't have a will. So
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
his estate is in dispute. and I think the children of whomever the family is still fighting over that estate as we speak.
Same with
And
Prince.
so
When Prince died, same thing with him.
yeah, Prince was another guy.
Yeah,
Died,
yeah.
didn't have a will. He
57
was
years old.
around us.
And now you got somebody
57.
trying to meet to him.
He's around the
And,
same age.
and
57.
can I just say something real quick? Because I think it has to be said. Just for just a second, inject some gender shit in here, just for a second. You see how we having this conversation about black men, and we're not talking about how sick Keisha is, and downing her and putting her down. You know why? Because we're adults over here. All right. We're not gender banging right now. We're talking about a serious issue that needs to be talked about. Because when you talk about black men and black women, black people are the sickest group of people in America. Okay. She's the sickest woman. We're the sickest man. So if they're gonna go on tangents about how sick we are and this is what happens to black men, let them. I don't care what a self-hating hoe has to say. We as grown men should be acting like them. We should be talking about situations like this in a serious way, so young people, young men who are coming of age, especially men in their 30s, can start thinking the way we're thinking. All right.
For the record, man, we don't gender bang. For the record.
Right. So, and I just wanted to point that out. So I wasn't really bringing gender in here. I was just trying to delineate and show how professional and how mature this conversation is happening and how serious it's happening.
No doubt.
Because we got black men who, and the reason why y'all keep pointing out famous people, because that needs to happen so brothers can get the point. If you're in your 30s, you need to start thinking this way. Take your ass to the doctor. Treat your body like business. All right. Your body is your time is your real currency. The only real currency you have is time. So extend your time and make sure you have time to see your children grow, time to see your grandchildren grow. You see what I'm saying? Time to make your dreams come true, your businesses and stuff that you probably won't have come to full fruition until you're in your 40s and 50s. You see what I'm saying? So this is a serious conversation that needs to happen amongst black men. And don't worry about what Keisha's saying. If you worry about what Keisha's saying versus what we're saying, then you're a goddamn simp.
And the thing here is, these celebrities had millions of dollars, so it's not like they were underinsured or something. They had, all the resources to go out and get the best insurance possible.
And they died. So you have to take a look and say, wow, this is very serious. We have to stay on top of this. You have to be almost fastidious about it. Reason why my mother lived so long, I looked at it, with even some of the health problems she had, smoked all her life, did all kind of crazy things. She was going to the doctor constantly. The Dr. Schamberger, he was a brother, but he was constantly had her on more meds than Pfizer. But at the end of the day, it kept her around. It was crazy. But yet she kept going to the doctor. That's one thing I did see. I saw how my mom, she stayed up there. My father, he didn't. Next thing you know, bang, zoom, heart attack took him out, snatched his ass on up out of here 30 years ago. Gone. Mm-hmm. So I sat back and said, okay, all right, I see what that's going. So I've outlived my dad. Thank God, and a few of my other cousins. So at the end of the day, that's how this game is played. We've seen that go on way too much in our own families, our own friends, and so on and so forth. So very important that we really stay on top of that. The men here in this manosphere who are in bad shape, and they're not, but they'll come here and they'll say crazy things to you, but they're in bad shape, and they don't want to deal with that, and this will continue to get worse. So we have to really continue to address this. This is something that we have to do. We have to consistently address this issue all the time. Doc Phoenix, you should be on this. You should be on the Brain Trust every couple of months, just running it down. I don't care if there are 5 people in the damn chat room. You got to be up in here running this shit.
I did this earlier, a couple of years ago. We did this.
Well, that's too long. That's too long. It's too long. Got to be back here on a regular consistent. You're in the game. You're getting your MDs. You're getting your qualifications. You know what the deal is. You know what the bottom line is. You need cats like this. I mean, you're a young cat. You're not 60. You're a young guy, and here you are. You're seeing this stuff coming through. So you just got to, keep these people abreast as to what's going on. It's very important. This is life and death. Because when this shit hits, and like with all these other brothers who are gone, whether we had agreed with them or not, I did not want to see Dave Carroll go. No, hell no, I didn't want to see that. Didn't want to see Kevin Samuels go. I mean, I may not have agreed with some of the stuff he did. I did not want to see him go. I didn't want to see these other brothers go. I don't want to see him go. I don't want, even brothers who I do not agree with, here in this manosphere who are brothers. We can disagree. I may have said some things. I don't want to see them go. I don't want to see them go out early. Don't want to see that happen.
Yeah, Dr. Phoenix, do you want to speak to the next chart that's on the screen?
Jason kind of made a point earlier where he talked about when people die and what they put on the birth certificates. It's very true. Again,
death certificate or birth certificate?
I'm sorry, not birth certificate. I said death certificate. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
What they put on the death certificate when someone dies, and that is very true. And so again, you know, there are so many. How can I put this? We saw the hysteria over the last 2-3 years related to COVID, and certainly in among Black people and in these Black social media, YouTube spaces. We've seen what Black folks were saying over the last 2-3 years or so as it relates to COVID-19. And again, I'm not here to say people are wrong one way or the other. I'm just saying that the statistics bear the truth. I don't care what people say. These are the numbers. This is what it has always been. In fact, if I'm being honest, and in my opinion, the numbers are probably more likely underreported because there are a lot of folks who died from COVID-19, except it just wasn't written on the death certificate as COVID-19.
What do they write it as?
So again,
What do they write it as?
Sometimes they just write it as people dying of natural causes. That is a common thing that gets put on people's death certificate. You die of natural causes. It's not uncommon to see people at 30 years old pass away, died of natural causes on the death certificate. And we know at 30 years old, you're in the prime of your life, per se. And yet, you know, you pass away from whatever disease or whatever the case may be, you died of natural causes. It is very common. It doesn't even have to be a disease. It can be an accident, a car accident, whatever. Lost at sea, whatever it is.
Okay.
And so again, it becomes this catch-all phrase, if you will. But again, in my honest opinion, I think these numbers are underreported. Because for the folks that I know that work in healthcare, and what their experience has been is that there were scores of Black people and Black men in particular who were being infected with COVID and were ultimately dying. And again, you had people on YouTube talking about doctors were being paid to put people on ventilators. Let me tell you something. If doctors were being paid to put people on ventilators, the ICUs will be filled with ventilated people today. That's all nurses will be treating are ventilated patients. But the problem with ventilators, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just gonna say there was a few cats, you know, even here locally, man, went to sleep, didn't wake back up during COVID, man. It just, you know, they call them natural causes, man.
People don't understand what a ventilator is for. A ventilator is a terminal process. This is the last thing we can do to save your life. And if it doesn't work, you just gone. Okay? That's the easiest way I can put it.
Damn.
And so again, people to get prepped to go on a ventilator, you have to be paralyzed. You have to be paralyzed, and then you're intubated, and then you're placed on a ventilator.
Yeah, I honestly believe. Now I was gonna say, I honestly believe some of the stuff you're talking about, Dr. Phoenix, should be on TV. Like, people need to see this. You know what I mean? And I know there's the HIPAA laws and, you know, privacy laws and all that kind of stuff.
Straight is gonna work with Black folks.
But people don't see this shit.
Gonna work with Black folks.
You know what? It was crazy. I think human beings saw more of what really happens in hospitals pre-COVID, during COVID, right? You know, so the COVID, there was videos that came out showing people on ventilators and stuff like that. But this is normal stuff. What you're talking about, that process of being put on a ventilator, that means you're almost up out of here. You know what I mean? And people don't understand what this looks like. That's what I was saying earlier about try to explain what dialysis looks like so people can understand what that is. You know what I mean? People don't know how it is to live with a colostomy bag on their body. You know, this is not something you want.
Man.
You don't want this. I'm telling you, you don't want this. When I got old people and sick people in my family, I go home. I just came back from America. I was in America for 2 weeks in November. I'm seeing this shit. You don't want it. I don't want it. You understand me? That's why I overdo it with the doctor. You understand me? Because I got the resources to do that. So I overdo it. That's just me. You know what I mean? I don't want to end up like that.
And I think how you, in particular, Jay Sean, how you take control of your own health and the way you interact with the healthcare system, I wish Black people and Black men in particular were more forthcoming and or really were more motivated to do that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's not the case. You are the outlier here. And I
Well,
will give you an
you know what?
example.
You know what? And I'm gonna tell you something else, Dr. Phoenix. I don't care no more. I don't want to interfere for these suckers. I mean, I see the situation in Manifest for what it is. I'm on some man stuff right now. I'm trying to save the one person I can. All right. So let's get graphic. When I was going through this 2 years ago, I wasn't getting hard-ons in the morning, but now I'm getting 4 to 5 a week. You understand me? Every morning. I'm healthy now. You see what I'm saying?
That's
So
very
I could
important.
sit. So now I'm sitting here telling you, like, look, me taking my health seriously and taking control of my fate. You know what I mean? But using this, using what I had as resources, and that's the problem. That's when it comes back to policy. And Mike has been preaching this. You've been preaching this. A lot of people don't have access to it. And we got to get brothers who have, first of all, have access to it. And then when you do have access to it, have an attitude of agency.
I don't think cats really understand what the emergency room is really like. I mean, in this discussion, you got to sit in there. There's people in there that are highly sick, worse than
Yeah,
you
it's
are.
disgusting.
It's a mess hall. It's a mess hall.
Yeah, it's a bad scene. You really don't want to have that. That's
No,
not the way you want to do your healthcare
no,
through the
and I will give
ER.
you guys I will give you guys an example using myself. For example, just this past week, I went and got my eyes. I had my annual eye exam, and so I'm not a diabetic. I don't have high blood pressure. I work out 4 times a week. In fact, I run about roughly 15 to 20 miles a week. And so I get up very early in the morning so I can go hit the gym or I can go get on a run. So I do this 4 times a week. And I've been doing this for a long, long time. And so again, and I did this throughout my life because I have friends that I grew up with that we're all around the same age in our 30s and so on and so forth. And some of these guys that had strokes, 30 years old, having a stroke.
That shit's crazy. 30
That's crazy.
strokes.
That is nuts. That's
Crazy.
crazy.
It's crazy.
One guy I knew, I well, still know, let me rephrase that. I still know him. He's 35. He he's looking at he's close to being on dialysis.
What's the difference between a mini stroke and a full stroke?
Mini strokes are more like transient things. They're mini strokes tend to be they're transient, meaning that they're come and go. You get symptoms of a stroke. It's not a full-on stroke. They just kind of come and go. When you say mini stroke, people are talking more like transient or what is referred to as transient ischemic attacks, meaning that they come and go. And so typically mini strokes, if you will, are precursors to someone having an actual full-blown stroke. The vast majority of people who have mini strokes usually have a major stroke within a year or two of those mini strokes. So basically a mini stroke is where it's a warning, if you will.
You know what's funny?
I would use it as, in my opinion, I would take it as a warning.
I try not
But
to address the chat room, because but
No, don't even go there, man. Just let
no,
let's just
this
close
is,
out with our final thoughts.
but I'm going to call what my final thought is going to be this. We can't be insane. We have a structure already. There is a medical structure. To ask Black men to create something that nobody else has created is insane. All right. Everybody's in the same medical system. Asians, whites, everybody's in the same system. The problem is that it's all, and when you create a system, resources and what's the word I'm looking for? Resources and certain capabilities are pushed to certain people. You know what I mean? Over other people. That's politics. That's what politics is about. It's about how the pie is divided. So it's no different in any other industry, whether it's medical, whether it's the military, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, there's going to be policies that pushes resources and access. That's what I was looking for, to certain individuals over others. That's the way it goes. And that's why we got to get involved in the political game. Dr. Phoenix just laid it out for you. He told you it was lobbyists that create a lot of these, to make a lot of these decisions when it comes to the healthcare system. So where are our lobbyists? We don't have to create a new structure. We don't have to create a new system. We have to get active in the current system, the current political system. That's the issue. Until you do that and then show me that has failed, I don't want to hear nothing else.
And I'll just close out with this, Mike. Moreover, again, if the conversation is going to be about Black men creating something, the question becomes why Black men haven't done it. Part of the reason is because, truth be told, when you create an institution, whether that be a healthcare system or whatever, I do believe there should be Black analogs of things like Google or Facebook or something like that. Yeah, I do believe there should be a Black analog to that. However, that requires people being accountable to each other. So if Black men aren't accountable to other Black men, or more importantly, accountable to their children, because what you do, I don't have any children, but I know a number of Black men listening, number of Black men on YouTube and social media in general, they have children. So if you can't show that you built something sustainable for your own children, I can't expect you to build something that's sustainable for the greater Black population. So again, accountability is a major problem here, where Black people and Black men in particular aren't accountable to each other.
Right.
Because if you want to build institutions, if Black people really have a problem with the way that they interact and interface with the healthcare system, then the only other option is you're going to have to build your system, and the question becomes, where are you going to get your medical providers from?
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? They're going to have to be.
Yeah.
This is going to have to be organic. They're going to have to come organically from, quote, the community. They're going to have to come from the people. So if you don't have an option for that, then I don't give a damn what the hell you say. You can shut the hell up.
All right. So look, I just want to say, as far as accountability, I want to say this to you, Mike. Thanks for having this conversation. I know we were supposed to talk about something else, but the Black Brain Trust ain't going nowhere. So I'm pretty sure we'll get to it another time. But this was a very important conversation. I'm proud to be participating in it. And so thanks for letting me come up and give my 2 cents.
Indeed. Thank you. Nagone?
For having me as well, Mike. I really appreciate it, man. You guys have a great holiday, man. Enjoy your new year.
Happy holidays, brother.
Hey, Mike. Hey, listen. Thanks for let me come up. I blasted a little bit, but I do think I'm passionate about this. It's very important that we look after our health. It's very, very important. And thank you for having me up. And happy holidays.
Indeed. Thank you. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button on the way out. Share the video if possible and hit that notification bell so you get all the